Good morning, everyone. I am meteorologist James Long with Dynamic Weather Agency, and today we're going to be talking about the next upcoming major winter storm. The system is going to be bringing some snowfall and some ice over the next couple of days. More about the timing and the impacts of that later on in today's video. We're also going to be talking about the next two rounds of severe weather expected tomorrow and Friday. It's going to be impacting parts of the Gulf Coast region, moving its way up through the southeast and into the mid-Atlantic. We're expecting to see some tornadoes and some damaging wind gusts with this event. Before we get into that, let's take a look at our current national radar. We have this nice low pressure center that's located over Canada, this nice cold front stretching all the way from Wisconsin down through Texas. We have some shower precipitation occurring ahead of the cold front, with some precipitation behind the cold front, with some with a wintry mix occurring in parts of Oklahoma and Missouri currently right now. As we look a little bit further to the west, we see some snowfall occurring in Texas, parts of western Oklahoma, and some snow beginning to diminish in Kansas. As we take a look to the north and east, we can see some snow occurring in parts of New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, parts of Massachusetts, and the parts of western Maine. High pressure is occurring, affecting much of the mid-Atlantic region and parts of the southeast today. Let's take a look at the interior U.S., the part of the western interior U.S. We see high pressure affecting much of that region today. Let's take a look at the west coast. We see a low pressure off the west coast, bringing some precipitation to parts of Washington and Oregon, with some snowfall occurring farther to the east in eastern Washington and eastern Oregon, with some snowfall occurring in parts of Idaho. We see that low pressure center located over Texas. This is going to be our next major winter storm as it tracks to the north and to the east. It's going to be bringing snowfall to parts of Texas. The system is going to extend all the way out through the central Great Plains, up into the Midwest, and into the Great Lakes region. And this system is also going to be our system that we're going to be looking out for, that's going to be bringing our severe weather over the next couple of days. But before we could go any farther in today's video, I do want to encourage you guys to hit that like button down below and subscribe to our channel. I thank everyone who has subscribed to us over the last couple of days. It's been a great support. Also, if you haven't already, down in the description below is the links to our social media and our website, dynamicweatheragency.com. Go ahead and head over to our social media and our website. Check out more content. We have a blog that we post every day on our website, along with these videos that we're posting on YouTube. And then there's also a link down there for our Patreon page if you want to support this channel and see more videos like this, or some chasing footage like you can see down below. Be sure to check out our membership packages we have on there. They range all the way from $1 to $20 with channel and page sponsors, $100 a month. We continue to add some exclusive content or some perks for you guys if you guys support us through that. We've seen increased traffic flow on our website for the last couple of days. I have a ton of stuff that was behind a paywall that I'm still slowly transitioning to make public and free for you guys to view on the website. We've had some people submit some site member requests on our website over the last couple of days. Don't worry, I'm not going to be accepting those, just because I am going to get rid of the site member stuff and everything's going to be public for you guys. And with that is another reason why I will love to have you guys support us on Patreon page, because with that increased traffic flow and some of the stuff that we have behind our paywall is kind of expensive for us to maintain. So if you guys support us over there, we'll continue to make great content like this. So before we could get into talking about the next major winter storm, let's take a look at what happened with our previous winter storm. This is the snowfall reports from our previous winter storm. You can see some of those high snowfall totals that occurred in parts of eastern Iowa, where we saw areas that saw up to a foot of snow. But a nice swath of 8 to 12 inches of snow occurred in parts of eastern Iowa, with a nice swath of 5 to 8 inches of snow extending all the way from parts of Nebraska to southeastern Wisconsin. Taking a look at our snowfall graphic that we posted yesterday in yesterday's video, we see that we highlighted that area of 8 to 12 inches of snow with that nice swath of 5 to 8 inches of snow. Now, we did say that swath of 5 to 8 inches of snow extended all the way into Nebraska, but this is our graphic that we posted yesterday, and some of that snowfall occurred the day before, so we trimmed our graphic from our previous day. This is our graphic from the previous day where you can see some of that. We missed some of those 5 to 8 inches of snow in parts of Nebraska right in this region right here, but we did get some of those 5 to 8 inches of snow in this part of Nebraska, and like we saw on our day, on our graphic that we posted yesterday, we did include that 8 to 12 inches of snow, refining our snowfall total. And you can see that where we trimmed our graphic for just incurring the snow just that happened on that day. But all in all, our forecast did rather well, and we're glad about that. And I hope you guys see that how good we are at forecasting some of these winter storms for you guys, and not posting ridiculous graphics that you might see on social media claiming 2 feet of snow during these events. So now we're going to talk about this next upcoming major winter storm. A low pressure system will begin to track its way from Texas to the Great Lakes through New Year's Day. The system will bring a spread of wintry mess of snow and ice across parts of the plains, Midwest, and the interior Northeast over the next couple of days. The snow and ice could contribute to travel problems in some areas, and we're also expecting, like I said, some severe weather. Basically taking a little outline of basically what we're expecting. You can see that low pressure track basically coming all the way from Texas, spreading its way all the way up through the Central Plains, Midwest region, Great Lakes region, up into the Northeast. We're expecting rain across much of the Tennessee, Mississippi Valley region into parts of the Mid-Atlantic, again with that severe weather affecting parts of the Gulf Coast, the Southeast, into parts of the Mid-Atlantic and Carolina region. Major snowstorm affecting parts of Texas with some heavy snow occurring all the way from Texas all the way up through Oklahoma and Kansas. As we get into the Midwest, the models start becoming a little weary, but we could see some of that heavy snow begin to transition its way up into parts of Missouri and Illinois, and even into parts of Michigan. But just for right now, just expect some snowfall within that region. We're also expecting some nice ice accumulation all the way in Oklahoma, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, parts of Ohio, into Pennsylvania, and even into parts of Virginia, with some major ice accumulation occurring in some of those regions too. Taking a look at the National Weather Service's current watches, warnings, and advisories that they have out, you can see kind of spread out across the United States. We have some winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings, and winter storm watches in effect. As we take a look at the Northwest, we can see some of those winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings in effect for parts of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and parts of extreme northwestern Montana. Let's move down to Texas. We see some of those winter storm watches, winter storm warnings already in effect. As we move over to the Central Plains, we have some winter storm watches in effect for parts of Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri. As we move up to the Great Lakes region, we can see Wisconsin and Michigan. We see some of those winter weather advisories in effect this morning. And then as we move over into New York, we do see those winter weather advisories also in effect this morning. So not only is this major winter storm just going to produce some snow, this major winter storm is also going to produce some major icing impacts. You can see some icing impacts all the way stretching from Texas all the way up through Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, into parts of Illinois, Indiana, southern Michigan, extending all the way into Ohio, with another event of ice occurring in parts of Pennsylvania and New York, and in parts of the Appalachian Mountain regions, with some heavy ice accumulations with some of that higher terrain. As you can tell, this model, you can see some of those depictions of those high ice accumulations within those areas of that higher terrain in the Appalachians. We can see some ice accumulation greater than 1/10 of an inch, with even areas seeing greater than 1/4 of an inch of ice accretion in some areas. This is going to create some very hazardous road conditions and some slippery roads. Alrighty, so as we take a look at some of the snowfall forecast charts between some of the models, we're going to definitely see the models are definitely in agreement for some high snowfall totals again across parts of southwestern Texas. We'll see a little bit of variation between the models as we move into parts of Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri. And then as we move into Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan, we'll start seeing a very quite a bit of variation between the models, especially as we start getting further out in the forecast hours as the system begins to track its way off to the north and to the east. Basically, all the models are pretty much, like I said, in the agreement of the high snowfall totals as we look at southwestern Texas as this low pressure system begins to develop. We'll see some strong frontogenesis with this system. And we got that nice upper level trough that has moved in, that's bringing this nice push of cold air. And with that push of cold air interacting with some of the moisture with the southeasterly flow that's affecting some moist air advection across the region. That's basically what's causing some of this higher snowfall totals across this region. Taking a look at the GFS model, like I said, ingredients and some of those highest snowfall totals, we do see a little bit of a change of the snowfall within the Great Plains region. We also see that push a little bit further east, and we see some of the snowfall begin to decrease in magnitude as we move into the Midwest region in the upper Great Plains. This, basically, like you see the European model expecting some higher snowfall over Illinois and southern Wisconsin, while the GFS is expecting this to be a little bit more over, a little bit less over that region, with a little bit more over Michigan. As we look at the NAM is kind of similar to the GFS. As you take a look at the National Weather Service blended models, you see, like I was talking about, as we move into the Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri region, the National Blended Models is forecasting less snowfall than the GFS, NAM, and the European model, but this model is still in agreement with some of those high snowfall totals across southwestern Texas. Taking a look at the National Weather Service's 48-hour snowfall accumulation graphic, this is what they're expecting over the next 48 hours. Again, heavy snowfall across southwestern Texas, with areas that can see up to 16 inches. All right, so taking a look at one of our in-house model outputs too, we can see, again, our model is also agreeing that we can see some of those high snowfall totals occurring in parts of southwestern Texas. You see near Abilene, 10 inches of snow. Just east of Abilene, 14 inches. Fort Stockton, 9 inches. Big Lake, 5 inches. San Angelo, 3 inches. Midland, 3 inches. Snyder, 3 inches. Pecos, you can see 2 inches of snow with this system. Now, one of my favorite things to also do is to do these hand-drawn snow analysis maps. This is for the next 72 hours with our next major winter storm. As you can tell, we are going to be inspecting to see some of those high snowfall impacts across southwestern Texas, with those areas seeing 8 to 12 inches with some isolated areas of 12 plus inches of snow. We also created that plume of 3 to 5 inches of snow extending all the way from Texas into parts of Oklahoma and Kansas. This may extend even just a little bit farther into Missouri as we continue to monitor and watch the models and continue to make adjustments. We also may extend that 3 to 5 inches of snow with another area up here into parts of eastern Iowa, into parts of Illinois, and even into parts of Michigan as we continue to monitor and watch these models, as it's just a little bit too far out for this part right here as we saw those discrepancies along the models, but we probably will add a 3 to 5 inch area within this region. Taking a look at WSSI day 1 through 3 overall winter storm impacts. As we look at day 1, we can see extreme winter storm impacts due to some of that heavy snowfall occurring in Texas. We'll still see some of that impacts on day 2. This is New Year's Eve. We'll also see some of that northern extent of some of those minor and moderate winter storm impacts due to some snow and some ice. And as we move into day 3, New Year's Day, we see some of those minor to moderate impacts with some isolated major impacts. Most of this is going to be due to ice, but also for the accumulating snowfall too. Not only is it going to be very snowy, it's also going to be very wet and rainy for parts of Texas, into parts of Oklahoma, Arkansas, and even to parts of the Tennessee Valley region. So basically parts of the Mississippi and Tennessee Valley region, you can expect to see some heavy rain potential with this next major winter storm ahead of the cold front. The Weather Prediction Center has put out excessive rainfall outlooks for today with slight impacts today, slight impacts tomorrow, and marginal impacts on day 3. Now getting into our severe weather threat. On our day 1 convective outlook, this is for today, we have a marginal risk for severe weather down in Texas. This is going to affect areas such as San Antonio, Houston, and Corpus Christi. As we move into day 2, looking at Thursday, we're expecting severe storms across the Gulf Coast and southern Mississippi Valley region. Greatest threat for tornadoes are going to be in parts of Louisiana, southern Mississippi, and even parts of western Alabama. We have a slight for tornadoes, slight for damaging winds, slight for large hail, and of course slight for flooding. The Storm Prediction Center has issued a slight risk for severe storms on this day. Basically, they're expecting severe storms associated with a tornado threat and damaging winds to be possible Thursday into Thursday night from far southeast Texas into the lower Mississippi Valley across the Gulf Central states. Taking a zoomed in look at this slight risk, we can see that we have Alexandria, Lafayette, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Macomb, Hattiesburg, Jackson, Mississippi, Jackson, Alabama, Mobile, Biloxi, all affected by this slight risk for severe weather, and also for the risk for some tornadoes and damaging wind gusts. Taking a look again at our ingredients for severe weather, we're going to be looking at wind shear, which is a change in wind speed and direction with height. We're going to be looking for atmospheric lift. This is going to be some type of boundary, such as a surface front that we have that's going to be moving on through. We're also going to be looking at instability. This is going to be basically how storms, basically tells us how strong storms are going to get. It's another source of fuel or energy that storms can feed off of. And of course, moisture is also going to provide fuel for storms and is also needed to produce clouds. So again, taking a look at our 10-meter winds and our surface dew point, we got this nice southeasterly flow ahead of the surface front that's evecting some warm, moist, unstable air into the Gulf Coast region. Dew point's going to be up in the 60s, which is going to be sufficient for some sufficient moisture for this region. So we take a look at our 300 millibar chart. See that nice deep 300 millibar upper level trough. Let's bring in this nice push of cold air. We have the nice warm air that's out ahead of it. So we have these colliding of air masses. We have a nice jet mass going to be moving into the region with some diffluent flow that's providing some upper level support and divergence aloft. So you look at our 500 millibars, again we see that nice deep 500 millibar trough with some vorticity that's got some positive vorticity evection ahead of it with a short wave moving on through. This is going to provide some extra upward vertical motion and lift, and also provide some tendency for some cyclonic spin and provide for those SRH values. Taking a look at our 700 millibar winds, we see a nice low level jet beginning to move across the region. We also see that at our 850 millibar winds, we move down, a nice low level jet beginning to move into the region with southerly winds at both of them. As we take a look at our instability, we're taking a look at CAPE. This is the measure, this basically tells us the amount of buoyancy in the atmosphere, and also tells us the amount of energy, because CAPE stands for the amount, convective available potential energy. It's basically the amount of energy a thunderstorm can feed off of. We see basically around 1,000 to 1,500 joules per kilogram of CAPE across the region, which would be sufficient for thunderstorm development. Taking a look at lifted indice, which is a more accurate measure of instability, basically looking at the temperature from a parcel at 500 millibars and the actual ambient temperature at 500 millibars on a model SQT. We do see lifted indices ranging from -3 to -5, maybe even -6 across the region, indicating that we have a unstable environment. Taking a look at our 0 to 6 kilometer, or you can call it 0 to 5 kilometer bulk shear values, we see sufficient shear over the region that will suffice for organized convection. Taking a look at our surface to 500 millibar crossover winds, we see those southeasterly winds at the surface ranging anywhere from 10 to 15 knots with those winds as you become aloft more southerly or southwesterly with the low-level jet, with winds basically anywhere from 65 to 70 knots screaming across the region. So we have that directional and speed share across the region needed for basically some nice discrete supercell thunderstorms. So we take a look at our SRH values, our 0 to 3 kilometer SRH values across Louisiana and even Mississippi range anywhere from basically 250 to 350 meters squared per second square, which is supportive for supercell thunderstorms and tornadoes. Taking a look at our significant tornado parameter, we see STP values greater than 1. Taking a look at a model skew T, we see this nice curved hodograph indicating we have this nice low-level directional shear, and we also see this hodograph becoming linear as we get higher up into the atmosphere, indicating that we have this nice speed shear as we move up in the atmosphere. We see those CAPE values, most unstable CAPE around 1,200, 1,300 joules per kilogram, those lifted indices around -3 to -5. Again, we see that nice 0 to 6 kilometer bulk shear of 62 knots, sufficient enough to support some organized convection. We do see some nice moisture within the freezing level that could support some hail growth across the region now. STP values around 3. So yes, this system is looking like it'll be supportive of some severe thunderstorms, and especially if we have any right mover storms, we can see those SRH values increase as a system. If we get a right moving supercell across this region, we'll see some greater SRH values. Also want to note critical angle 68, another good factor for tornadoes. Those are kind of supportive critical angles. So looking at our severe weather setup, moderate instability, moderate lift with that surface front, high shear. This is a typical winter pattern when we see those low CAPE, high shear thunderstorms. Tornadoes, moderate threat. Hail, we increased that to a moderate threat. It was a low threat. Now we've increased that to a moderate threat today. Wind, moderate threat. We can see some of those damaging wind gusts with that low-level jet. Moving on through with any thunderstorms that allow some of those winds to mix down to the surface will provide some gusty winds. The overall threat is slight. Again, we can possibly see that increase to an enhanced risk as we move it closer as we get closer to the day 1 convective outlook. For day 3, we can see mostly only damaging winds. Thunderstorms associated with marginal severe wind gusts will be possible on Friday into Friday night. From northern Florida to southern North Carolina. Taking a look at some of the areas that are going to be affected by a day 3 severe weather outlook, we have Fayetteville, Florence, Columbia, Charleston, Savannah, Macon, Columbus, Tallahassee, Gainesville, Jacksonville, Panama City, all in this marginal threat for severe weather on day 3. Mostly for marginal damaging wind gusts. Again, I would like to thank you guys for checking out today's video. If you haven't already, hit that like button down below and subscribe to our channel. Be sure to check out our social media links down in the description below and our website, dynamicweatheragency.com. Also, if you can, support us on our Patreon page. Link is down in the description below. I am meteorologist James Longworth signing out for today, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.